Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. This is the first lecture in the course, The Rise of the Novel. As we agreed in the introductory or preliminary lecture, we will be interested in discussing and studying together the various changes, in brief, of course, the various changes that affected the rise of the novel. Lots of changes took place in the 18th century. It was an age of changes, and it was an age of many effects taking place everywhere, and all these things reached the English novel, and that is why we devote much time and attention to a study of those things. This will benefit you a lot in your study of literature in general and your study of the novel in particular. Before we talk about the nature and characteristics of the novel in the 18th century, let us have a brief history of England at that time, and I'm stressing the word brief. Don't worry, you are not studying history, you are studying literature, but from an approach that looks at those characteristics of the novel as the product of the changes in the century. So the novel is the daughter of the century, or the product of the century. It will help us to understand a lot about the emergence of the novel and how it developed later. And you will also understand the text itself through that background. Okay, ready? England in the 18th century. I know that you have an idea about much of what I'm going to say, but I'm putting things into effect. I'm highlighting certain matters that will help us in our study of the novel. As you can see, this is the age of the novel. And the 18th century was the birth of the English novel, and up till the present moment, the English novel is in vogue or in fashion, starting from the 18th century onwards. First thing we're going to deal with is the political scene. I'm going to divide the changes that took place in the 18th century into points to make it easy for you. And after a slide or two, I'm going to give you a question. Out of these questions, inshallah, you're going to prepare yourself for the quiz or the final exam. These are the types of questions I will be interested in when I design a test or an exam for you. The first thing I have called FAIR. What is FAIR? It's an abbreviation out of 4 words: F, A, I, R. Let us read together. During, please notice we are interested in the political scene. During the 18th century, Britain, continental Europe, and North America, so almost the whole world, were scenes of enormous changes, big major changes. These changes can be summed up in 4 elements. The first one is the French Revolution and the American Revolution. The French and American Revolutions, those were very important events that produced much fiction at that time, and up till the present moment, many texts are produced and inspired by the French and American Revolution. So F and A, French and American. There was also the Industrial Revolution, and there was also the Reformation or the religious revolutions. To make it easy for you, I have taken the first letter of every word and put them together to make a new word, which is FAIR. So what does FAIR stand for? It stands for the French Revolution, American Revolution, Industrial Revolution, and the religious revolution. What does FAIR stand for? This is the question in another way. Okay? It stands for all those things. Another question on the information that we have just learned is this. The 4 revolutions that affected the rise of the novel in the 18th century are 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 ones: French, American, industrial, and religious. Okay? The French Revolution, let us study one by one. The French Revolution took place where? It took place in France. So I could simply ask you, the French Revolution took place in, and then I will open brackets and say, for example, England, France, Germany. Of course, the right answer would be France, as simple as that. So it took place in France, and it lasted from 1789 to 1799, that is to say 10 years, and I'll ask you about this shortly. It was a revolution against injustice, inequality, and oppression. Like any revolution, the French Revolution came in France at the end of the 18th century in order to rebel against three major things. Among the things that it rebelled against are injustice, inequality, and oppression. And you will see when we study the slogans how the French Revolution rebelled and revolted against such matters. It called for three mottos. And these three mottos, three terms, three principles, three goals are summed up in a word, again, AFL or F. Each letter stands for a word. So from inequality, you have the opposite, which is equality. From and so on. You will see now. So equality. So inequality, they rebelled against inequality and wanted equality. They rebelled against injustice and wanted fraternity. They rebelled against oppression and wanted liberty. So equality, fraternity, and liberty are the three mottos of the French Revolution. Everyone expected to be treated as equal. They also expected everyone to feel like brother and sister, no differences at all between people. Also, they wanted liberty. Most people before the revolution in France were in prison, and they wanted to be free. These are sample questions. The first of them, the three mottos of the French Revolution, اختصار. This is the abbreviation for French Revolution. We have liberty, equality, and fraternity. Also, we could say the French Revolution took place in the which century, which period of time? 17th century, 18th century, or 19th century? Of course, it is the 18th century. Okay? So after a slide or two, you will have questions, and from these questions, you expect to be examined in the final exam or in the quizzes. What are the slogans again of the French Revolution? We have the word motto, okay, and we have the same word, the word slogan. They refer to the same meaning. Slogan, they are equality, fraternity, and liberty, okay. There are some famous, important people who affected the French Revolution, who motivated the French Revolution and gave rise to it, and they are very famous in world history and in the history of the French Revolution. We have Voltaire, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Montesquieu. Please remember the names. These are pivotal, important names in the French Revolution. Question: some famous thinkers who motivated the French Revolution are the same information that you have in the previous slide. That is to say, Voltaire, Rousseau, and Montesquieu. You supply the answer in the blanks here. Okay? So as you can see, my questions, my sample questions are either multiple choice, I gave you choices, or I ask you to complete. You just fill in the gaps. No more than that. Liberty, equality, fraternity, and this is the same logo of the French Revolution in French. Now, the words are written in French the same as was displayed in the time of the French Revolution. Liberté, égalité, and fraternity. All more, this is something that has been taken off from the sign post of the French Revolution. So this revolution inspired many people around the world, and please pay attention to the word inspired. It affected, it moved, it changed many people around the world. Why are we studying the French Revolution? Is it because we need to study French history? No. We're studying it because it reached many spheres of life. It affected people everywhere in the world, starting from the 18th century onwards. We'll notice the effect of these three slogans, liberty, equality, and fraternity, in many of the works written afterwards, either in England or in America or even in Arabic literature. The French Revolution affected many liberation movements all around the world, like what? I'm going to choose one revolution that was affected by the French Revolution, and this is the American Revolution. Remember, FAIR, F-A-I-R, French. We finished French now. Let us move to the American Revolution now. Questions before we move to the American Revolution? Question. The slogans of the French Revolution gave rise to, that is to say, affected other revolutions, like what? British, German, or American? So we are going to choose the American Revolution. It did reach German and Britain, but I'm talking about revolutions. I'm not talking about the fact that it moved to England or to Germany, but the revolutions. It affected the American Revolution, or the same piece of information can be tested, can be examined again in the form of a question. The French Revolution inspired, and that is why I told you to remember the word inspire from the previous slide. It inspired the Italian, Egyptian, or American Revolution. Of course, it inspired the American Revolution. All right? Okay, the American Revolution. Again, as we said, the French Revolution started in the second half of the 18th century, and the American Revolution also started almost exactly in the same decade. It took about 8 years also to flourish and to bring fruits. The American Revolution was the political upheaval during the last half of the 18th century, in which 13 colonies in North America joined together to break free from the British Empire. So America at that time was under British colonization, and remember the word colonization, okay, because we will need it a lot. Combine all those states, the three states, combined together in order to become the United States of America that we know of now. Like the French Revolution, the American Revolution called for a number of slogans or mottos. One of them is freedom, the other is independence, and the last one is human rights of equality and brotherhood. As you can see, these principles are almost the same principles that were called for by the French Revolution. And that is why I'm saying here it was inspired by the revolution in France. Okay? Question again. When did the American Revolution take place? I'm asking about the time. When did it take place? 17th century, 18th century, 19th century, of course the 18th. The same period of time in which the American Revolution arose and took place. Where did the American Revolution take place if we are asking about the time? Did it take place in England or France or America? Of course, America. The question is not here, but you can expect it, and I might supply it to you now or write it down again for you. We're asking about where did the American Revolution take place, and I would give you choices like France, England, America. It's as easy as that, actually, very easy. So I'm asking about when, and here I'm asking about where. You know, of course, the answer. The American Revolution, and this is something that I'm giving you in blue because it is not necessary for you to keep it by heart or study it, just read it. This is an example from the American Institution, the American Constitution, the American Declaration of Independence, which says that there are facts or truths that must be clear to everyone. Men are created equal, as we said in the French Revolution, equality. They are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights. That's to say, they are brothers and sisters, and they have to enjoy liberty and the pursuit of happiness. Almost the same meanings and principles and ideas that the French Revolution came to support. Okay? Now, the political scene, the system of government in England. Forget now about the French Revolution and the American Revolution. Let us move closely to the scene in England. The English Parliament and monarchs turned to political maneuvering rather than civil war to resolve their conflicts. There was a conflict or conflicts, a number of conflicts among politicians in England in the 18th century. It was not a stable century. Things were not still, they were not stable, there were conflicts and problems. They resorted to maneuvering, that is to say plotting, making problems, conspiring with one another against other parties and against other politicians in order to win those conflicts. The same word is repeated here. There was an ongoing, continuing conflict between the two major parties, and you will have a question about this. Two major parties in England, and they were always in conflict, the Whigs and the Tories, the Conservative and the Labour Party in England that still exists up till the present moment. There were also some wars between France and England. So in this slide you have conflicts, and the conflict between the Whigs and the Tories, and that is inside England itself, the internal scene, the local scene in England. On the international level, there were wars also ongoing, especially the war between France and England several times, not just once, and this was recorded in a novel called A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, I beg your pardon. Question: two famous parties that always were in conflict in England are, I know that you know it now from the previous slide, these are the Whigs and the Tories. All you have to do is fill in the blanks, the Whigs and the Tories. Okay? The political scene again in England. What was the system of government in England like? It was characterized by division and political problems. As I said in the previous slide, problems between parties, between politicians. Was England a monarchy or a republic? Was it a kingdom or a republic? No, it was monarchy still. But people began to feel more freedom. This is different from the previous ages. There was freedom now, and we will study this shortly. And they began to criticize the position, the state of affairs in England at that time. They began to criticize it, but in an indirect way. We will explain more about it very soon, inshallah. Question about the previous slide. We are approaching the end of the first lecture. Pay attention, please. In the 18th century, England was it a monarchy, a republic, or a colony? Of course, it was a monarchy, a kingdom. Okay? And this, before we come to the end of the first lecture, let us remember what we have been talking about from the start. We talked about background information about the 18th century, saying that background information is very important to our understanding of the novel, because the novel grew rapidly as a new rising genre that is still in vogue or in fashion from the start of the century up till now. We talked about a word which is fair, that comprises four revolutions: the French, American, industrial and religious. In this lecture we talked about two revolutions only, the French Revolution and the American Revolution, and then we came back to England to see what kind of politics, what kind of government, saying that everything was characterized by division and conflict. Before we talked about England, we focused on the principles of the French Revolution, saying that liberty, equality and fraternity, as you can see now, are the three mottos that moved also to the American Revolution, and these mottos in the French and the American Revolutions spread to the English novel and even to English politics and English people in the 18th century and also, of course, in the 19th century. Later, at the end of the lecture, we talked about the scene in England, saying that there was conflict here, conflict and international wars in England. At that time, the system of government was a monarchy. And this is the end. Waiting to see you in the second lecture, in which we are going to talk about the Industrial Revolution and the religious revolution in England that left their effect and imprint on the English novel in the 18th century. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.